All right, Alfred Telefero, Mr. Telefero TV. What's going on, guys? Make sure you subscribe to my SoundCloud podcast. Make sure you support my iTunes podcast. Check me out on YouTube, of course. Everything at It's Mr. Telefero. And we just growing all our platforms as we get ready for my new website that comes your way March 1st. I cannot emphasize that date enough, and I can't wait to give you everything I have in the month of February to promote this incredible website. I was on it earlier today, man, and everything looks legit. Everything looks legit. All right. Anyways, this podcast is pretty much to talk about a few teams throughout the association, throughout the NBA, who are struggling. All right, we are at that point in the season with the All Star game right around the corner. And you have a few teams that we expect a little better from throughout the season, and they're struggling right now. We'll get to some of the bigger teams, but where we want to start this thing? Let's start off with the Toronto Raptors. I'll tell you what I think about these. Well, we got 6 teams to talk about. I'll tell you what I think about these teams. I'll tell you what I think about them going forward. Do I think they're going to get it together? And we'll just go from there. We'll talk about the Toronto Raptors. 4-6 in their last 10 games. Still only 3 games out of first spot. You know, the irony is another team that I'm going to talk about in a minute, the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Toronto Raptors have lost 5 straight games, and they blundered an opportunity. They had an opportunity to legit catch up with the Cavs in this stretch and become the number 1 seed. But what they managed to do was allow Boston and Atlanta, 2 teams that were struggling to start the season, they've allowed these 2 teams to catch up with them. So now, not only are they probably not going to catch the Cavs, we don't expect the Cavs to keep losing. Again, I'll talk about them in a second. They're going to mess around and jump from 2 to 4th, all right? The Celtics are a half game behind Toronto, and the Hawks are 1 whole game behind Toronto, all right? Let's look at this. Let's look at the standings. Like, this jump from 1 to 4 is 4 games, all right? And let me tell you how this is shaping up the playoffs and why you don't want to be the 4th seed. You don't want to be 4, 5, or number 8. And these are the reasons why. If you're 4, 5, or 8, you face LeBron in the second round of the playoffs. So right now we have Atlanta, Washington, and at 4 and 5, and you have the Chicago Bulls at number 8. So right now, we're going to expect that the Cavs get it together. Right now, at 6 and 7, you have Charlotte and Indiana. If I was Atlanta or Washington, if I can't get 2 or 3 towards the end of the year, and I'm like at 5th, your best bet is to try to lose games, go backwards, be number 6. Then you take your chances at, if I'm Atlanta, you take your chances at a Toronto or Boston. If I'm Boston, you take your chances at Atlanta or Toronto or vice versa. If I'm Toronto and I drop back, I need to be number 6. But Toronto has very high hopes coming off their Eastern Conference Finals appearance. I am concerned that this team could, in the next couple weeks, getting to the All-Star break, they could mess around and not be in the midst of this thing, coming off a loss to Memphis. It's crazy that this team is going backwards, man. This is a team that I thought would get it together pretty much for the entirety of the season. But when you look at this team, you look at the talent. DeMar DeRozan's still, averaging about 28 points a game. Kyle Lowry got 7 assists a game. They'll figure it out. I'm not believing that they won't figure it out. What I'm only thinking is that they might figure it out, but what does that mean? You're 46 games within the season. What do you go the rest of the way? I don't know. To get yourself to 54 wins, you have to go 26 and what is that? 26 and 16 or something like that. I don't know. I have to do the math. But you definitely have to win 26 and 14 is what you have to go, or whatever. All right. Anyways, the Toronto Raptors, they have to get things together from a defensive standpoint. The opponent's averaging 104 points a game. They're still putting up 109 points a game, essentially 110 points a game. That's tied for first in the Eastern Conference with those Cleveland Cavaliers. And They just, I mean, you look at it, man. You look at the situation, you look at what they're dealt with. They still control their destiny. Again, I don't know if they'll get the number one. They've blundered this opportunity, and that number is going to drive me crazy with Toronto. They're 46 games in to get to 54 wins, which will probably get you maybe number two. Just trying to figure things out here. I knew that number would drive me crazy the rest of the night. They would have to go 26-10. They have 36 games left, so I got it, guys. I'm good money. My math is always A1. I had to get that together. Um, but if you look at last year, Toronto won the East, second place they won second place in the East at 56-26. So if you're looking, they might have to get to 54, 55 wins again to win it this year. So they're gonna have to pick it up. Definitely gonna have to pick it up. And I think it just starts with DeMar DeRozan. Again, he's taking that next step in his game. I love what he's doing from an offensive standpoint. Right now, I just need him to have a go-to move. I think the guy's game is incredible. Um, I think I did a blog the other day how he started off averaging about 8, 9 points a game when he was in the association. Now he's up to about 28, 29. So it's just a true testament to his durability, his tribute to the game of basketball. Now all we need is him to be a little bit more vocal and find that go-to move. So I think Toronto will be fine. All right, let's go to our next team on the list. I'll get to the Cavs towards the end. Let's go to the Houston Rockets. Let's talk Houston Rockets, right? Houston is having an incredible season, exceeded expectations. Right now, they're in a bit of a funk. Again, they're 4-6 in their last 10 games, lost their last 2 games, and I mean, when you look at Houston, they're dealing with injuries. Ryan Anderson has been in and out of the lineup. Eric Gordon has been in and out of the lineup. I mean, it happens. The season is long. This are some of the things that come of such a long season, and it's gonna happen to everybody. Everybody gets hit with the injury bug. Everybody's trying to get to the All-Star break, at least make it to the All-Star game with good health. Some guys are going to be going off into their private places to practice and work on their game during All-Star weekend. Some guys are just ready for that vacation and want to enjoy their teammates or the fans and enjoy players around the league. So it is what it is. Everybody's trying to get to that All-Star break. And in Houston's case, I've seen what I've seen of them right now at 34-15, second in their division, and from a conference standpoint, I believe they're still third. They're still third. And they got a 3-game margin on the Clippers, who are struggling at this point. They're 30-17. I don't see them coming, even though it's only 2 in the loss column. I think Houston's fine. They'll be fine. Get their guys back healthy is the main thing with them. James Harden is still playing exceptional basketball and MVP level. I believe if the season ended today, James Harden would be your MVP. And I don't even believe it would be a co-MVP type situation. I think the league is going to vote him the outright MVP right now, averaging 28.6 points a game, 11.6 assists a game, and 8.2 rebounds a game. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's 7 points up on his career, 5.5 assists up on what he's averaged throughout his career, 6 assists up in what he's averaged career, and averaging 3.3 more rebounds a game. So I mean, the guy is literally increased in everything in his repertoire and his game. He's really buying into new coach Mike D'Antoni's system, and he seems to be committed to even playing a little bit more defense for his team, more than we've seen him play in the past. And again, that's a great sign. That's a great sign. That's a great sign from a guy who's just never bought into defense. You've seen him on plays just literally watching the guy go past him and just giving marginal effort at best. It's a great sign to see that he's playing defense and committed to every aspect of his game. I think Houston will be fine. I'm not really very worried about the Houston Rockets. Another team on my list that is at this point, I mean, struggling. Chicago Bulls. Back to the Eastern Conference we go. All right, right now they're 8th in the Eastern Conference, and the Milwaukee Bucks are playing very bad right now. So they if the Milwaukee Bucks can get their act together, Philly's playing better basketball right now. They're 3 back in the loss column of Chicago. So I mean, Chicago's got a lot of teams right there. right there in the cusp of things. So they have to look at those teams. You have Dwayne Wade coming out, and Dwayne Wade is as pissed as I've ever seen this guy in his career at the team. He's calling out teammates saying that they just don't care win or loss or draw. I would love to hear more detailed who he's specifically talking about. He's saying guys just don't care about losing. Jimmy Butler reiterated those sentiments. And I mean, Jimmy Butler is giving it his all night tonight. I can't knock Jimmy Butler. But when I look at this team, I look at a Michael Carter Williams. Is he talking? Is Dwayne talking about him? Denzel Valentine? Is he talking about him? Rajon Rondo? I mean, I think Rondo cares about winning. I just think his attitude sucks. Bobby Porter's a guy out of Arkansas that I always thought cared about the game. Doug McDermott, Nikolai Mirotic, Robin Lopez. Who's he talking about? Taj Gibson's somebody that I always considered very passionate about the game of basketball and wants to win. D Wade's like, I'm 35 years old. I shouldn't be the guy. And D Wade went for like 33 tonight, or in the night, the last game that they had, and they still came out on a losing end against the Atlanta Hawks. And D Wade's like, man, look, I'm 35. I shouldn't be the guy giving the most effort out here on the court. This is ridiculous. You're talking about a team that we all thought would be better than that. Did we think these guys would get anywhere past the second round with the team they have of the playoffs? No. But I mean, they give you a fighter's chance. They maybe not even get past the first round. But I didn't expect them to play this brand of basketball. I mean, D Wade got on his social media account and apologized to the city of Chicago for the lackluster performance they put out the other night when they lost by at least 30, 40 points. So, I mean, this team I'm concerned about because what would open the court up for this team is a perimeter shooter, and you're dealing with problems with Rajon Rondo. Fred Hoiberg looks like he's out of his league some nights. Jimmy Butler's questioning him on the court. D. Wade's probably more educated to coach this team than Fred Hoiberg is. I could see this team very well missing the playoffs. If you look at a team like Milwaukee, they have more talent than the Chicago Bulls do. Giannis Antetokounmpo is playing out of his mind. If he can just get this to be some more contagious energy, and if they can get some guys rolling, they could catch them. I mean, Detroit, they got the 8 seed last year. Andre Drummond, I mean, it's a walking double-double. If this team can get it going, the Knicks are still in the midst of that 8 seed, even though I will be getting to them next on my teams that are just disappointing me so far throughout the season. Philly, man, I think Philly might be the team to watch out for. They're playing really good basketball right now. 8-2 in their last 10 games, the best record in 2017 in the NBA. They're going to be on their heels. All right, Joel Embiid has sparked this team, and they're coming for that playoff spot. So you're looking at a situation like that. I could see this team really not making the playoffs. They need shooting. You have Rondo, Wade, and Jimmy Butler on one team. Jimmy Butler has improved his jumper exponentially, but it's still not good enough to consistently keep the defense honest from a 3-point standpoint. I mean, I would think the good guy that needs to go right now is Rondo. You don't get rid of D Wade. It's a 2-year contract with the opt out after this year. You don't get rid of D Wade from the standpoint of what he brings to the city. He puts butts in seats. You let him kind of go at his own pace. It's a short deal. You don't get rid of D Wade at the trade deadline, but you see what Rondo can get on the value on the market. I don't think Rondo's a guy that anybody would want right now. Just being honest with you, his attitude throughout the league has a bad reputation throughout the league. They need some shooting. I don't care if it's a young guy who's gonna get up shots. I even seen Nate Robinson chime in on House of Highlights. Shout out to them. They always keep me up to date on my highlights. I even seen Nate Robinson come through on one of House of Highlights posts and be like, man, they need me back. And I'm not going to lie to you. They need something. Even if you got to put in Nate Robinson at point guard. Nate Robinson can always space the court. He's not as scared to shoot that jumper. They need something. By the way, Nate Robinson would be a nice fit for the Cavs as well. So, Nate, if you want to get back at it, there's a home for you out here, my friend, because what you do is something that's missed throughout the league. Not a lot of shooting right now. So, I can see the Chicago Bulls struggling definitely towards the end of the season and this last stretch. I mean, it is what it is. They just don't have enough scoring. Got a lot of guys that's going to be decent players in the NBA. I believe Bobby Portis is going to be a good guy. Denzel Valentine, I believe, is going to be a good guy at some point, but I mean, it just doesn't provide shooting. Doug McDermott and Nikolai Mirotic just not doing it on a consistent basis. Let's just be honest about it. They need more shooting. They need more shooting. I think this team has missed in the draft a couple years. They just need more shooting, space to court. To give them credit, they had no idea that they would be bringing in D Wade. But hey, you got to plan for these things. You need a stretch four or something. Go out and get something, man. Channing Frye would be great for this system. But I mean, he plays for the Cavaliers and they love him there. Let's keep it moving. New York Knicks, another team that I mean is just going backwards. 3-7 in their last 10 games. The point differential is a negative 2.7. I mean, this team is just utterly night to night. They suck. Night to night, you don't know what you're getting from this team. Derrick Rose is inconsistent, even though in the grand scheme of things, he's having a good season. I mean, Derrick Rose is definitely having a bounce back year for his standard. He's actually shooting the highest from the field on this team. Who would have ever thought that was coming? D Rose has been somebody throughout his career, has been known to not shoot the ball at a high percentage from the field, but D Rose is averaging 18 points, 4 rebounds, and 4.5 assists. He's been the bright spot of this team. You're looking at a guy like Joakim Noah, just not the same guy. Just can't give you the energy that he used to give you. Still, with that being said, still averaging 5.7 points and 9.2 rebounds, so I can't knock him 100% of the way. Kristaps Porzingis is a guy that I believe this team should be building around. He's averaging 19 points and 7 rebounds. The problem is you have a guy like Carmelo Anthony, who I love as a person. I want to make that clear. But you have a guy like Carmelo Anthony who just stops the ball every time he gets a hold of it. Steve Kerr would be pissed if he had to play with the guy. He's a ball stopper. No disrespect to Carmelo Anthony. He seems like a great guy. He does a lot for the community. Loves the city of New York, but you talk about a ball stopper. I mean, the guy just stops the ball. I'm not saying he can't get his own shot because a lot of plays he bails out a team after a bad possession, and he can make that shot over anybody. He can create space to get his off from mid-range anywhere or make that long contested three. Don't get me wrong. But the guy doesn't create flow for teammates. He doesn't make teammates want to play with him. And it's consistently been a problem throughout his career, and it's plaguing him now more than ever as the New York Knicks are looking to make a trade. If you don't know, now you know. It's on here as well on my podcast, on the SoundCloud. I did a blog on this apparent Carmelo for Kevin Love swap that the Cleveland Cavaliers declined and even want to enter the talks with them about this swap. Melo's a guy who is stopping the ball. It is what it is. Like, Melo's a guy who you need. He can't be a number one to me at this point in my career. He can't be a number two to me at this point in the career. But I would love him as a number three on a team. But he have to be willing to accept that role. All right. I think the Knicks would be better if this team was built more around Porzingis and even Derrick Rose when his head is into the game. 100% Porzingis, and I'm kind of sold on D Rose. Melo can still get his. You look at a guy like Kevin Durant, he's still getting his on a team with better players, but Kevin Durant understands that some night he's not going to have the hot hand. It's going to be Steph. Some nights it's going to be Clay, or hell, it might even be Sean Livingston. You got to be okay with that for the better sake of the team, and I don't think Melo has ever been able to buy into that. I don't think he's a great motivator for teammates, and it's costing him. It's costing him. The guy has a no trade clause, so he can controls his terms. But let's be honest, man. There's only so many teams he would sign off on. In my blog earlier today, I said he probably only go to big markets like a L.A., Chicago, New York. His wife, he's in New York right now, or maybe a Houston, or maybe something like that. It has to be a big market. He's not going to a small market. His wife is Lala. She ain't going for that. Lala's doing an incredible job in a New Edition biopic, by the way, loving it. And with that being said, I just don't know about him, man. I just don't know about Carmelo Anthony. I don't know what happens next. If somebody asks me, do you believe he's going to be traded by the end of the season? No, I do not. No, I do not. No, I do not think there's a deal out here for Carmelo right now. And somebody asks me, what would be the deal for Carmelo Anthony? I would think long and hard about that. The thing I got right now on the top of my head is Blake Griffin for Carmelo straight up. I think it benefits both teams. But even then, that'd be a stretch for the Clippers because they've made so many promises to DeAndre Jordan and Chris Paul with Blake Griffin. I know Melo would be. I know Chris Paul would love to play with Melo, and I know Melo would love to play with Chris Paul. But even then, it's a stretch. I'm not gonna lie to you. It is a stretch. And it's hard to feel sorry for Carmelo from a basketball sense because he had times in the past where he could have controlled his destiny. He could have went to Chicago. He could have went to LA to play with Kobe. He chose New York. And it looks like it's biting him in the behind because Phil Jackson is going to make his life a living hell until he waives that no trade clause. But from the Knicks, from a basketball sense, I mean, it's just horrible to watch. They don't play for each other. You know, I brought up Kevin Durant and I brought up the Warriors earlier. One thing about pretty much every team on this list outside of the Cavs when I get to them, the one thing that I don't like about these teams right now, especially, they're not playing for each other. Toronto does do a good job of moving the ball when they're playing as a cohesive unit. They're not playing for each other, though. Houston, as well, moves the ball well when James Harden wants to pass the ball. They're not playing for each other. I watch, and they're not talking to each other on the defensive end. So the next team I'm about to get into, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Knicks and the Lakers have this problem. I'm watching the Lakers against Portland. And on one play, Larry Nance Jr. got injured on a play towards the end of the game. There's 2 minutes left in the game, right? There's 2 minutes left in the game. This is the most pivotal time in the game. You think that the Lakers would be all in. It's pretty much a tie ball game. It's a one-possession game. And Larry Nance gets injured after a lay-in. And back down court, nobody ever communicated with anybody to pick up Larry Nance's man and just guard the rim. And then the Portland Trailblazers got an easy layup at the rim, and that was it on that. I just need this team to commit to defense more. I just need these teams to commit to defense more. And the Knicks and the Lakers, just they don't commit to defense, and they're playing for themselves. Melo's playing to get his. D-Rose, a lot of times, playing to get hits. And it just cannot be that way if you want to win. All the great teams, all the really good teams play for each other. San Antonio plays for each other. The Cavs, when they're rolling, they play for each other. And a lot of these teams on this list don't. The Los Angeles Lakers are another team that I wanted to discuss. Struggling at this given time like the New York Knicks. I mean, the Lakers are just a mess. I'll do another vlog on the Lakers. I want to give them some more attention and just talk about the situation that they're dealt with. Let's make this clear. The Lakers are 16-33 after a really good start. They were in the playoffs for the first few weeks of the season, if the playoffs had started then. But they are a mess. Negative 6.4 point differential. 3-7. 11-13 at home. 5 wins on the road. 5-20 on the road. If the season ended today, they have the worst record in the Western Conference, and second worst in the NBA. Might I add. This is my team, so it hurts me. The Lakers bench, a lot of nights, is better than their stars. The Lakers bench, you could argue that the Lakers bench is better than their starting lineup. I think they have the lowest amount. I think 40% of their points come from their starters. Something like that. Between D'Angelo Russell, Jordan Clarkson, Julius Randle, Timothy Mozgov, and Luol Deng, you can argue when they go small that Jose Calderon, Lou Williams, Larry Nance, Nick Young, and Brandon Ingram are better than their starting lineup. A lot of nights it is the case. A lot of nights Lou Williams has the hot hand. Julius Randle is a guy that I believe in, but he can't finish layups around the rim. You've overpaid Timothy Mozgov. You paid him max dollar essentially. You paid him at least $16 million, and he's just not a $16 million type guy. You had no business giving him that money. Luol Deng, a guy we've loved in the past. Let's face it, he's on his last legs. Just not the guy that he was. Didn't deserve $18 million a year. And nobody's trading you guys for these contracts. So you're stuck with these teams. A lot of people believe that Lonzo Ball should be the Lakers pick if they get a top 3 record. But for those who don't know, Philadelphia owns the Lakers pick this coming off season. If the Lakers finish outside of the top 3, it's a protected top 3 pick. What does that mean, Delapero? The Lakers lose their pick if they don't have a top 3 record and substantially get a top 3 lottery pick in the draft. So if they lose the pick, how do you get better? You've already paid guys. You seem like you're committed to Brandon Ingram. You seem somewhat committed to D'Angelo Russell. I don't know about the two together. Julius Randle just can't buy a layup around the rim. Nick Young is Nick Young. It's time to move on. Technically, Meta World pieces on his roster. That's ridiculous. I look at this team up and down, and it's a mess. I think Brandon Ingram has potential. I like Jordan Clarkson, but I don't like him as a starter. Sorry. He's not a starter in this league. I actually think Lou Williams has been playing good basketball this season, but he's getting up too many shots. He's not allowing the team to flow as an offensive unit when he's in the game. It's me, 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 and that's been the theme here. People playing for themselves and not for the sake of the teams. The great teams don't do that. The teams that make the playoffs don't do that. And Luke Walton can say that we're not trying. The head coach of the Lakers can say that we're not trying to tank all you want to, sir, but you're unintentionally tanking, my friend. And the best thing for you guys to do is tank and go get Lonzo Ball in this draft, or somebody who can fill a need. Maybe trade D'Angelo Russell. If you hold on to Russell, I don't know if Ball and Russell would fit. Russell wants the ball in his hand. Lonzo Ball deserves the ball in his hand. His mentality is mature. The Lakers could use some younger players who are mature, more mature than what they got, and Lonzo Ball fills that role. I think Julius Randle is a fairly mature guy. I don't know what's going on right now. I really thought he could be a leader for this team, even at a young age. Julius Randle is what? How old is he? 22. I really thought he could be a leader for this team, despite being at a young age. Not panning out. Definitely not panning out. So that's the Lakers. Their struggles will continue. It's going to get worse. They're going to try to challenge Brooklyn for this worst record. Brooklyn has 9 wins right now. The Lakers are going to challenge it with everything they got. These will be one of your 2 worst teams in the NBA. By the way, for all you Brooklyn people out there that told me that the Brooklyn Nets were the worst team in basketball, you were wrong. I was right. I'm not going to even rub it into you guys' face tonight because I got bigger and better things to talk about. All right. The last team on my list, the defending NBA champion Cleveland Cavaliers. For those who don't know, the Cavs are struggling. Lost their last 3, 4-6 in their last 10, 2-6 in their last 8. I don't think LeBron James has went 2-6 since 2011 or something like that, or some crazy stat like that. LeBron just doesn't lose this many games in a row. It's just not who he is. It's just not who he is. They got the Brooklyn Nets next game, so they have an off day. Maybe a game to get things together, but they're gonna have to get things together against the top of the top. All right. They in a week span, they've lost to Golden State and they've lost to the San Antonio Spurs. One of those teams, if they plan on getting out of the Eastern Conference, they will be facing in the NBA Finals. I'm like 98.9% sure to be one of those teams. So I mean, hey, you got to pick up some wins. The good thing is, like I said earlier, the Toronto Raptors have not picked up any ground on the Cavs because they're struggling. They're lost about 4 or 5 in a row. Forgot what I said. But that's the only good thing for the Cavs right now. They're not playing for each other. J.R. Smith, man, I hate to bring up a bad situation. He's dealing with an injury, but I think it's more or less the team is letting him kind of slide right now. Because if you don't know, him and his wife had a baby that was a pound. She was born premature for about 4 or 5 months. And J.R. Smith has been away from the team. They need him back. He can get hot. A lot of nights J.R. Smith just carried this team offensively last year because he can get hot with the best of them. A lot of nights they didn't have things going, and J.R. Smith's 3-point shot would just carry them. Tristan Thompson, he is what he is, man. Tristan Thompson is still improving as a player, one of the most durable guys in the association. He's playing every night, regardless of the situation. Averaging 7 points, 9.6 rebounds. Is that enough production from a guy you gave max money to? Just checking in. J.R. Smith, $12.8 million a year. You got to deal with that. This is who LeBron wanted back. Kevin Love, $21 million a year. Kyrie Irving, $17 million. LeBron, $30 million. LeBron, I don't know how you can complain about help when Channing Frye's getting 7.8 mil. Kyle Korver brought over his 5.2, even though they're good with that. Iman Shumpert's making 9.6. Somebody has to go. And if I were to say something, I believe Shumpert should be the one to go. I really believe Shumpert should be the one that gets traded. That 9.6 mil would be good to go out and get somebody more productive and more consistent. Now the problem with that is you go get rid of Shumpert. Shumpert's best friends with Jordan McRae and Kyrie Irving. You go ruin chemistry there. You ruin some Cavs chemistry, and a lot of people believe you shouldn't touch that. You should not play with something that ain't broke. Because with that being said, the Cavs are struggling, but they're still number one in the Eastern Conference and still well on their way to getting back to the NBA Finals despite some big injury to LeBron or Kyrie. They're well on their way. So with that being said, LeBron, I don't know how you can complain about this roster. It's not Dan Gilbert's fault. It's not David Griffin's fault. They got you everything you wanted. You wanted J.R. Smith, Tristan Thompson. I've said this like 5 times today. You've wanted those two guys. You're a big fan of Richard Jefferson. He returned, despite considering retiring. You were the one who wanted Kevin Love to get the trade for Kevin Love. That was one of the stipulations of you coming back to Cleveland to get Kevin Love, which essentially sent Andrew Wiggins out of town. And why is that relevant? Andrew Wiggins will still be on a rookie deal, which would give them more money to make moves right now if they hadn't made that trade. But hey, maybe you don't have win a championship without Kevin Love. I tend to believe they still would have figured it out. When you play a team like Golden State, a guy like Wiggins is valuable on the court. But again, this team, I don't want to get too far into it. The fact that they were able to keep their number one record in the Eastern Conference, even though they're struggling right now, tells me that they're in a good spot. If they were going to lose that number one spot and have to compete for it, I would have been worried if they had already lost it by now. With LeBron still averaging LeBron's averaging 43 minutes over his last 3 games, 43 minutes every game. And he's number one in NBA minutes at his age. I'm pretty sure going into the season, this is not what the Cavaliers wanted. As a matter of fact, Tyronn Lue said he would make a conservative effort to get LeBron James less minutes. He has made him sit out a couple games. But to be fair to Tyronn Lue, the problem is you try to put LeBron James on his minute restrictions, and LeBron James is still, a.k.a. the head coach of the team, and he'll see the team struggling and want to go back into the game. So a lot of that is on LeBron James' fault. But at the same time, Tyronn Lue has to be more stern as a coach, put his foot down, and not allow LeBron back in the game. I see a window here. I do see a window for the Cavs to get everything together. If you look at, I'm going to go through pretty much their next 20 games. This is past All-Star break. This will get you to about March 12th. March 12th, they have Houston, Detroit, Utah, LA, and Los Angeles. All right, I'm going to get you to about right there with these games that I'm going to announce. That's when their season kind of kicks back up. But if you really want to talk about the Cavs and what they have next. Next game Friday against Brooklyn. That's a winnable game. They better win that game after losing 3 in a row. Oklahoma City at home. That's a game that they should win. At Dallas, a game that they should win. Minnesota at home, you should pull that one out. It should be a good game. New York Knicks on the road at Washington, at Indiana, at Oklahoma City. All winnable ball games at home against Denver. Then that gets you to at Minnesota on Valentine's Day, another winnable game versus Indiana. That'll get you to All-Star break, another winnable game again against the Knicks after All-Star break, and against the Bulls, who's struggling right now, against Milwaukee, who's struggling right now. And then then it gets kind of tough. You go at Boston, at Atlanta, at Miami. That should be a winnable game versus Miami at home, on a home and home. And then you have at Detroit, and then at Orlando, and then that gets you to that at Houston on March 12th. So up until that point, there are a lot of games that this team should win. I mean, you looked at that stretch; they're playing a lot of teams twice. In that one stretch of those games I just told you about, you play Oklahoma City twice, you play the New York Knicks twice, you play Indiana twice, you play Minnesota twice, you play Miami twice. Again, that's a window right there for them to really get it together. They're not playing a lot of competition. You get to that at Boston, at Atlanta, and then it's right back to Miami. So there's a window. Their schedule is just not that tough down the stretch. They still have one game with San Antonio before the season ends, but it's pretty much essentially Eastern Conference foes. Toronto's mixed in there a time or two. Atlanta's mixed in there pretty well. Boston's in there. These are all winnable games. All winnable games. And I expect this team to get it together soon. I expect this team to get it together soon. Like I said, the fact that they're still in first place, they're fine. So that's me pretty much breaking down all these teams right now. I go by the name of Alfred Telefarrell. Thank y'all for tuning in. These are the podcasts. Tell me what you think about these longer formats when we talk everything, all right? I worked at ESPN. This is what my passion is at. Hip-hop is just something that comes natural. I'm sorry. Hip-hop is just something that I'm picking up. Sports are natural to me. Thank you for the time, love, and support. Salute. MrTelefarrell.com comes your way March 1st. Get ready.